Good afternoon, everybody. I just told Laszlo that we have so many things in common that I also come from Debrecen, actually, just like Laszlo, the previous speaker. I also got my degree at agricultural economics at the Debrecen University, just like Laszlo did, and my mentor was the same lecturer. And what I was looking for while I was sitting out in the audience, that in 10th May 2017, I had this big dinner with wine event that you and István Balassa did together. That was my first experience of dinner with wines. And so this is the third time this event has been called an ENG Wine Meetup. And in the past 3 years, we have been one of the major sponsors of this event as a bank, as MBH Bank. And this is the first time we've come, but this is the first time I'm standing on this stage. David Hollós, my colleague, gave the presentations on the first and the second events. I had something to do with those as well, but in those presentations, Csaba talked about this medium revenue trap of the Hungarian wine industry. And the second presentation was about entrepreneurial attitudes and behavior. And this time I'm going to more focus on, financing, but I'm not going to swear on anything. Don't worry about that. Interests and exchange rates, I'm not going to talk about those. But winery, we like wine. I like wine myself, and it's a very nice topic. If there was another 100,000 wine drinkers like myself, the industry would not have a problem in this country, even in the crises, years of crisis. But it's of course, most of these wineries, they make a living off wine, and really, fates of family members hinge on the performance of the wineries, and these winemakers have families, and they have to be able to generate the income the families can survive on. I'm trying to use language and terminologies that are easy to understand. The main topics I like to discuss today is, one is wine consumption. Will there be people drinking wine in the future? Where the wines will be sold, and what is left in our pocket at the end of the day. If you look at, and this is the chart that shows you the history of wine consumption going back to the 1920s, so before the 1930s World Economic Crisis. And here, what you can see is that in a historical perspective, because we talk about generational impacts and the differences, this is something that does exist. I know how people drink wine. People are younger than me. I was born in the 1990s, by the way, but I could see that Laszlo's you have showed a couple of years on his last slide, that the years of crisis, and really young people drinking less and less wine, and they barely drink alcohol. We wanted to talk about what they actually consume instead of alcoholic beverages. But let's stay within the wine industry. But these are, I think, short term. These have short term impacts, and the industry that looks like 15, 20 years in the future, we're going to not grab up wines just because consumption dropped by 10%. If you look a little deeper into all these data, and of course the government commissioner, he tried to separate wine consumption from the rest of alcohol consumption. But if you look at where the part of the market segment where wine is, and okay, wine has a huge culture and is rooted in a long-standing European culture, but it's still but whiskey has a long-standing culture too, and beer also has a long history. But there's always top-of-the-range wines, and there are top-of-the-range whiskeys, there are top-of-the-range, and there are lower-quality whiskey as well. Now, so it's still, wine still competes within the world of alcoholic beverages. So if you look at these waves of consumption, like you see here on the left-hand side. So of course, when there's economic growth in general, and then the Berlin Wall comes down, and then it stops drinking, and now it's like 3.5 liters per person by 2023. And basically, the biggest loser is wine, according to these diagram. So this of statistics is based on alcohol equal value. So this means that it's not only the total volume of wine that drop, but also consumers go for lower alcohol wines in general. And they became more demanding. Consumers have become more demanding in the market, and I think when we talk about the export and the potential to export wine. So the wines which are not good value are the ones whose consumption is really decreasing and basically disappearing. If you look at how wine consumption is distributed between different countries, so here what you can see is that the proportion of European countries in wine consumption has been decreasing, and the U.S. became the biggest wine consuming country by the 2000s. And if you look at how wine consumption changed every year after the mid-1990s, and only the USA has been able to increase wine consumption in this period, and in Europe it dropped in every single country. And you really should ignore these figures, and the world trends that actually there's an aging population in Europe. One thing is that young people don't drink wine. There are no young people in Europe. That's the problem. While in the US, there are more young people. It's less of an aging population, and these young people will grow older, and that's what you end up with, this kind of statistics at the end of the day, and that's where wine consumption could grow. And if you look at Asia, there's a short-term economic impact, and of course the duties imposed on the Austrian wine had an impact. It was difficult to measure consumption of wine in China, therefore. But in Europe, this minus 2 million hectoliters of decrease is obviously linked to the fact that that has to do with the competitiveness of Europe and the European Union in general. I mean, this may be the hottest topic these days in the press, and the situation of automotive industry, and the Chinese automakers coming now out with cars that are of the highest possible quality. And I like to see these reviews, and really reviewers of these cars just cannot find faults. Of course, we don't know too much about this. These are very young cars, but still, but they've reached they can now make cars that are the same quality as European cars, but the price is much lower, and that's true of the food markets as well. And basically, making good quality is not a big deal anymore, and that's just you just meet the minimum requirements from a consumer. Quality should taste good. It should be of high quality. That's just the minimum requirement for any product, basically. So what are indicators there are out there that have an impact on how the export markets develop? I didn't want to put too many, so there are not too many numbers on the horizontal axis there, but basically in the 21st century, can I roughly here that's where the 21st century starts. After the turn of the millennium, the two lines started coming closer together, moving the same way, up and down, that is to say. So, and what you need to understand from this is that this is the yellow line shows the household consumption expenditure. So it's clearly related to the wine consumption now. There's always a late reaction. Of course, 2020 was the year when wine consumption started decreasing, but it started decreasing in 2023, 2024, and it's good news that now the line is going up now, which means if this line goes up, the household consumption expenditure is going up. That in a couple of 2 to 3 years, wine consumption will grow too, and people will come back to wine. On a general level, I'm sure will be better. The situation will be better in a couple of years' time. And you have to talk about pricing as well. Price of wine is always a big question when it comes to Hungarian wine. I started getting interested in wine about 10, 14 years ago. I started becoming a real wine lover. Roughly at the same time I started going to university. I did a bachelor's degree and then a master's degree, and started working as a young economist. And for the first 7-8 years, the price of wine never changed. 3,000 Hungarian forint wine had the same price in 2012. And it had the same. You could buy the same price in 2019 as well, and 2020 as well. The price never changed, which shows that if you want to translate that into a more understandable language, there's that if within this time period, so here you see this, in this period, the line is flat, so that the price doesn't seem to have increased here. But the wines got cheaper, basically, at real value, because the growers couldn't increase the price. And 2022 was when everybody started pushing up the prices very high. I don't know whether the Hungarian wines are priced okay or not. We'll talk about next year maybe, but it was indispensable. It was inevitable that. Probably winemakers could easily tell you that basically you had to pay the bills, your household bills, and you needed to increase the price. Therefore, because you just where did all this lead? And this is a very sad diagram here, and you can see that 2015 is 100%. And how it changed, you can see how it changed in the various years in terms of export and domestic sales. Export sales grew, and have been growing quite nicely. And bulk wine is bulk wine sales. A lot of bulk wine sales are included in this, and bulk wine sales can keep export high. But the domestic market just collapsed completely. And 2023, there was less wine sold in Hungary, less Hungarian wine sold in Hungary than in 2015, which is very sad. Which is very sad. We can't do anything about this. I know that most Hungarian wine is sold in retail, and retail outlets have a certain behavior in the market, and I'm not going to talk about that. But going into a price war in this very tiny Hungarian wine market, these shelves are very short in Hungary supermarkets. It's difficult to keep your wine on those shelves and not to go into a price war at the same time. So, and this is why we need to go and send the wine out to export. But which markets we should send the wines to when it comes to export? If you may still remember that I talked about Europe and third countries outside of Europe. So if you look at the markets within the EU, that's Q is for quantity and V is for value. So you see that if total export is 1, so Hungary has like 1%. 1%. Hungary wine is at 1% in terms of value and 2% in those quantities, which only goes to show that basically it means that we sell good quantities at a bad price. So the idea is that the dotted line should be below the solid line. Yeah, so this shouldn't be like this. And this statistics is relevant to bottled wines only. And we go into a price war that we just cannot win here. And here you have to, on the left-hand side, you see the playground of the big ones, the big players, and you would think the biggest exporters are the French. No, not really. They are biggest exporters outside of Europe. They export a big export country means that so the price of French wine sold in Europe and sold outside of Europe are like this. So in third countries, the price of French wine is much higher than within Europe, because that's where there's a market with purchasing power. And US and Japan and South Korea, Asia, these are markets that some of us mentioned here. And if you can sell a small quantity in there, because those markets pay a good price for wine. But the Hungarian position, I'm coming back to this for a second, and here you see this line is basically flat, which means that we maintain the price of wine. We maintain the market position within EU, and maybe even in third country markets. And these are sad things. But let me point out something positive about this. This is going up a bit here. You see the end of the value line here is going up a bit. And the government commissioner mentioned this. There are new vistas that are opening up, and there are now little successes that we can achieve. We'll probably not be able to get to the level of Austria at least, but at least if we could come to the level of value of Austrian wine is sold at, and that would be already a great success. Okay, let's have a look at some financial results of financial analysis. I promise I will be very short, very brief on this. So this is about asset efficiency, this thing, and so asset efficiency is what we talk about is the assets of wineries, like steel tanks and bottling lines and stuff like that. We use an Opten database, use it, and the 300 data from 300 Hungarian wineries are included in this assessment. Every dot is one winery in this chart, and they all have an average revenue of more than 25 million forints a year. when it comes to asset efficiency, I don't want to compare this to international, similar international data, because we don't have access to such data actually. But the main thing is that there are more wineries with bad asset efficiency than with good asset efficiency. So this indicator will never be real good at the winery, because we have a long payback time. Just think of a bottling line. Now many wineries buy a bottling line, and the capacity utilization, maybe use it for 1 to 2 weeks a year, basically, maybe for 1 month a year. But basically, the money is tied up on that machine and sitting in that machine, and is not doing anything good for us. And this indicator will never be good. But it's not only bottling lines or still tanks, but you can build a restaurant next to your winery. You can build a small hotel next to your winery, and all these assets with not efficient utilization. But you can compensate this. You can basically invest your money. You can invest money that can compensate this bad asset efficiency. And we're going to talk about different wine regions as well, and we'll go into more details about this later. The capital is something that is in the title of the, and I'm talking about the capital as money. So in this slide, the same database, just a different diagram based on the same database, same wineries, and here you can see on the upper left-hand side, you can see are the wineries where they generate a loss, and they have to supplement capital. And basically, if you generate some profit, then you can reinvest it, basically. Also, but I think more than 60% of these winemaking companies are reinvest into their profit into the company. So more than 60% of the wineries. So these two diagrams, what boils down from all these two wineries, that winemakers are very conscious. They don't take the money out of the company all the time. They reinvest their profits. So you could see that crop field companies, other farmers, when they get a higher revenue, they started buying real estate in Budapest and stuff like that. And some of these farmers had cars that were worth like 300 million forints. Winemakers are not like that, like the average field crop farmers. Wineries tend to reinvest their profits into the company. But the problem is that the assets they purchase from that money do not work efficiently. They don't perform well, and we need to find a solution. Today, we'll not find a solution for this, but we should try to find a way to help your cash flow. We have to invest in assets that can help improve your cash flow. So what derives from all this? So again, it's still the same database, but a different analysis. And this shows the price increase since 2021. And here you have the revenues, nominal revenues, and you have the EBITDA margin underneath, which is a profit category. And between 2020 and 2024, it's been going down. In some areas it did go up actually, but on the average, the profitability has decreased, and despite the price of wine going up by over 20–25%. What is real not good to see is the real value, this red line here, because that's the revenue at real value, because there's no real value generation here. We haven't seen any of that in the past 3 years, and all the price increases in the past since 2021 have been just enough to counter the losses the winemakers been suffering. And we talk about which regions are better performing and not so better performing. Tokaji is not here on the slide because the great Tokaji wineries they distort the picture because of the great losses they generate. I think Tokaji would be the best in terms of revenue. Tokaji performs very well, but because of the high losses, the profit levels are lower there. Kunság is the biggest wine region, producing lots of bulk wine. They are successfully exporting such bulk wines and are working very well. They use lots of assets, and they use those assets very efficiently because they produce a lot. And those machines work continuously, and they produce and they generate profits as a result. Eger is number 3. If you take the revenues, total revenues, and Eger is the best, and Villány is number 2nd, and that's not for nothing. Villány is there in 2nd position. So Tokaji is not there because it's not a fair comparison really. But Villány has the brand that's always been able to price the wines very well. And I think Villány is the region where you can find the most non-winery services available to visitors, like wellness, restaurants, hotels, stuff like that. This is why it's important. This is why these are all very important because in difficult years, those can really help the situation. Talking about winery strategies, there's no such a thing as a bad strategy. Just because we don't like bulk wine because it's not of high quality from the Kunság area, from the business point of view, they are very efficient. You may say that, or tell yourself that you make a 10 euro wine, maximum 10 euro wine. 3,000 forints, I said, okay, now it's like 4,000 forints now, 10 euros. But it should be very, very adamant, and they should really go down that way. And premium is the easiest to communicate all the time. The wine scoring 98 points from James Suckling and the Decanter World Wine Awards winners. You know, they are easy to market, they're easy to communicate, but you need to attach a financial strategy to it. And if you produce high quantities, you have to get good quality. So if you sell the wine at a price point of 30,000 forints, you can go with lower asset efficiency. But if you want to sell the wine at a price point of 3,000 forints, you have to be very efficient in using your assets, because then you're going to lose money on this. So what have we talked about? And so the decreasing consumption of wine is mostly due to the difficult economic environment in general. When it comes to the market, we had to increase the price of wine because there was a huge pressure from the cost and expenditure side. And I think if you look at the average price of wine, I think Hungarian wine is at least priced well enough. We had to, maybe there's a way up, still up there, but we had to catch up with international growers in this respect. And then capital. We are. It's difficult for me to talk about capital because we provide loans to wineries, and it's like talking against the benefit of my company. But you need capital to start up a winery. You can use loans, bank loans, for growth. But if you want to make a big leap ahead, you need capital again. So, and obviously, pricing, when it comes to pricing, there's still a room up there, but I think today wines, Hungarian wines are priced at real value. Normally we use some quotes to finish our presentations, and I love these superhero movies, and this is the Nolan's Dark Knight. It's a quote from that movie: "The night is darkest just before the dawn."